Hello everyone, Horror Juice here. Just a couple things I want to say before I start the video. First off, thank you for all the support on my last video. That's really awesome. 100 views on the last two videos. That's crazy. And second off, I'm sick, so my voice isn't gonna sound as good in this video, which I'm kind of disappointed about. I hope you're enjoying these videos, and if you enjoy this video, hit that like button and subscribe. And now with that, let's get into the video. Firstly, I'm sorry if my English is bad. It's not my native language. One night, I stayed at my campus until late at night. It was about 1 a.m. in the morning that I decided to go home. On the front gate of my campus, there was no public transport left, so I had to take the one which is rather far, and I needed to walk for 10 minutes before I get there. The path which I had to take has no street lights, so it was dark. In the middle of my way, I met a woman who I knew about. She lived near my boarding house. I once saw her at some cafe near my boarding house, and I saw her come out from that house in front of my boarding house the other morning. It seemed that we were going the same way, and I didn't really think much about it at first. Then she looked over her shoulder as she walked faster than before. The next thing I know, I was left there alone. After I finally arrived at the main big street, there was a bus parked at the side of the street waiting for passengers. That's how it works here in Indonesia. As soon as I got onto the bus, I noticed that the same woman as before was there on the bus too. She looked terrified when she saw me, and then she changed her seat far from mine. I then realized that she thought of me as a stalker. It was funny for me until I realized that I will get off the bus together with her, and she might really think that I stalk her for real. I was confused what I should do. Should I talk to her and say, "Hey, I might be big and scary, but I'm just a normal college boy who lives in the boarding house near your house"? That would be awkward, so I decided not to. Finally, I get off the bus, and yes, she got off there too. My boarding house is located in a private housing complex. To get there, I should walk in a small alley first. That night, the alley was very dark, and that woman was running in a hurry towards the alley because she thought that I was after her. I walked slowly, thinking that if she didn't see me right behind her, she might feel safe and let all of this go. I was very wrong, because just when I was about to go into the housing complex, there she was, looking terrified, and started screaming at me. I really don't know what to do, so I just approached her and told her to calm down. I was gonna explain all the things when she took out a kitchen knife from her bag. The situation intensifies. I jumped back and told her I am not a stalker. She didn't believe me and approached me with the knife. I was going to run when a boy who lives in the same boarding house as mine passed us, and he knew something wasn't right, so he approaches us. He told the woman, who was confused as fuck, that I live in the boarding house. I then apologized to her, but she was still upset and left us there, still looking at us with her judging eyes when she walked out there. I made sure she was already far from me when I finally thanked the guy who saved me and told him all of it. He laughed at me, but I couldn't. I just had a knife swung at me. It scared me. So yeah, the woman who lives near me. I am not a stalker, and I have no intention to stalk you whatsoever. So please don't think about me as a bad guy who followed you home the other night. I am sorry that you were scared of me. Let's not meet again like that, and I hope you have no bad feelings about me. In the 8th grade, I had a stalker. one that I never saw. I received a phone call from an unknown caller. Usually I would not answer for a number I didn't recognize, or sometimes I would do so in an accent, but I would always hang up after a second or two. Things changed. However, when the second I answered, I heard a man say my full name in a questioning tone, like if he was asking for confirmation that this was me. Being just a kid and thinking this was one of my parents or friends, or someone who I could talk to, I told him that this was me. Big mistake, but I didn't know that at the time. That first phone call I don't remember much of, except that he hung up not long after I said that was me. Some time passed, maybe less than a week, when I got an unknown call again. I didn't answer, and then I kept getting spam calls. So I finally answered, and this guy was asking me about what shows I like to watch. I got the idea that maybe I shouldn't be talking to this guy, so I just hung up. Not much longer, another couple of calls came in until I said to stop calling him. He responded something to the effect of hanging up mid-conversation is rude. My dad heard me and asked who I was talking to, so I told him that I didn't know and I handed him the phone. My dad asked who this was, and to stop calling my number in his angry dad tone. Then he got a confused face for a second, before getting really angry and shouting at them before abruptly hanging up. My dad later told me that this person knew my father's name, Carlos, and I told him, "Don't be so angry, Carles," before hanging up. This guy sounded young. For a long time we thought my uncles or their friends were playing pranks on us. He sounded maybe mid to late 20s and sounded sort of Latino. Never had an angry tone and never said anything malicious, but he was a stalker, and he knew the names of my parents, sister, my dogs, some cousins, and my grandparents. He never called when we had company over, and it was never after 8 p.m. At one point, I was sitting in my room and got a call. By this point, I was nearing the last few weeks of school, and because this guy never said anything bad, and the police said there was nothing to do, I just answered the phone and asked him what he wanted. I remember clear as day, he was listing off video games, Red Dead Redemption, Modern Warfare 2, Halo 3, etc. I looked to my disc stand and saw he was reading off the list in order that my games were top to bottom. I stood up and looked out the window, but nobody was there. After he was done listing, I just stood there and he told me something about me having good taste in games, and that we should play sometime. At this moment, I was scared shitless. I cried and called my dad. He came home early and we realized, like idiots, that we could just change my number. We changed my number and I purged my Facebook account, and we all set our accounts to private. Maybe 6 months later, we moved, and after changing the number, I never got any calls from this guy. The reason I came to tell this story is because I've been getting unknown numbers calling me for the past couple of days, and I never answer them anymore. But telling my girlfriend about it, she reminded me about the guy. So I will be changing my number soon as a precaution. A little backstory. I'm a 20-year-old, short, petite female working at Subway, and I can't help but be nice to anyone even if they creep me out. I feel bad usually. About a year ago, we had this guy, 35 to 40 years old, who would come in every day for lunch. He was fascinated by my stretched ears and few piercings I had on my face, and always asked questions. He would sit down after I rang him out and watch me from his table for 2 hours non-stop, just staring at me while I helped other customers. This goes on for about 2 weeks. Every day he would ask for my number, saying he has plugs and tunnels he wants to give me and see me wearing them in my ears, and I always politely declined. One day I'm alone in the store because my manager had to run to the bank. We were really slow that day, so I was just in the back room messing around on my phone. I heard the door chime, looked up, and yet no one was there. Then I saw the man walk past the front of the store really quickly, like he was in a hurry. The store phone rings. Thanks for calling Subway. How may I help you?
This is the girl with the nice ears, right?
Yes. Who is this?
Are you alone in the back room right now? Are you working by yourself?
At this point I got really creeped out and I knew it was him. I hung up and texted my manager the situation so she would hurry back. He called again, this time asking me very weird questions, like what would I do with him in a room with the door locked, if I had a boyfriend, why I was playing hard to get, etc. My manager gets back and I tell her everything. In the middle of the lunch rush, he calls again. This time my manager answers, and to this day she never told me what he said, but the look on her face made my spine shiver. She told him if he called again or showed up here, she would call the police. I thought that was the end of it, but I was wrong. 1 week later, I'm clocking out and getting ready to walk to my car parked in front, and when I look outside, I see him standing by my car and looking inside of it. I was an idiot and left a back door unlocked. I watched him crawl inside and shut the door. The creep was trying to hide in my fucking back seat and do God knows what to me when I got in. My manager locked the front doors of our store and called the police. When they arrived, they had to pretty much drag him out of the car, and he was arrested. On him was a butcher knife, rope, and a rag with chloroform in it. If I hadn't looked up when I did, I would probably be dead right now. So Subway Stalker, let's not ever meet again.